He woke up before sunrise, just like he had done for many years. But now, there was no crowd, no cameras, and no cheers. Only silence. His name was Rahim Khan, once known as the Lion of Lahore. In his younger days, people used to stand in long lines just to watch him fight. His punches were fast, his body strong, and his heart fearless. But now, he was 62 years old, with gray hair, tired eyes, and shaky hands. Rahim lived in a small house on the edge of the city. It was quiet, almost too quiet. The walls were filled with old photos, pictures of him in the ring, with medals around his neck, smiling with his wife and daughter. But those days were gone. His wife had passed away many years ago, and his daughter had moved to another country. She called him once a month, always telling him, "Abu, please take care of yourself." But Rahim didn't feel alive anymore. He spent his days sitting on a worn-out sofa, watching old videos of his boxing matches. Sometimes he would smile, most times he would cry. He would rewind the same moment again and again, the final fight of his career. The one he lost. It was the national championship, 25 years ago. He had trained for it like a warrior. The whole country believed he would win. But just before the match, he got a call. His wife was very sick. He wanted to leave the match, but she said, "Fight, Rahim, for me." He entered the ring with a broken heart. His punches were slow. His eyes were full of tears. He lost the fight. That night, he also lost his wife. Since then, he never boxed again. People forgot him. New champions came. New stars were born. Rahim became just a name in old record books. One day, while walking past a gym, he heard the sound of boxing. Gloves hitting bags, shoes sliding on floors, whistles, shouts. He stopped. He looked inside. Young boys were training, full of energy, full of dreams. He stood there for 5 minutes, then 10. He felt something inside, something that had been sleeping for years. He went home that night and opened a small, wooden box. Inside was an old pair of boxing gloves, a photo of his first championship win, and a letter from his daughter. She had written, "Abu, you were a hero. You still are. Don't let the world forget who you are." Rahim looked in the mirror. His body was weak, but his eyes, they still had fire. The next morning, he returned to the gym. The trainer, a young man named Asif, looked confused. "Yes, uncle? Do you need something?" "I want to train," Rahim said simply. Asif tried not to laugh, but he couldn't help it. "Uncle, this gym is for real fighters, young fighters." "I was a fighter once, too," Rahim replied. The boys in the gym stopped and looked at him. One of them whispered loudly, "Maybe he wants to do yoga or something." Everyone laughed, but Rahim didn't. He walked slowly to the corner of the gym, took off his old sandals, and stood near a punching bag. He raised his fists. They shook a little. He punched once, then again. Weak, slow. The boys laughed more, but one boy, a cleaner in the gym named Bilal, watched quietly. He recognized the face. Later, when Rahim sat alone in the changing room, Bilal came to him and said, "Sir, were you the Lion of Lahore?" Rahim smiled faintly. "A long time ago." Bilal sat beside him. "I saw your old fight on YouTube. You were amazing." Rahim looked away. "That was a different life." Bilal said, "Why are you here now?" "I want to fight again," Rahim said. "Not for medals, just to feel alive." Bilal didn't laugh. He nodded. "Then I'll help you. I cleaned the gym, but I also watched the training. I can show you what they do." From that day, a silent bond was formed. Every morning, Rahim came to the gym. The trainer ignored him. The boys kept laughing, but Rahim didn't stop. Bilal secretly helped him stretch, learn warm-ups, and showed him new training methods. Rahim used old techniques too, from his golden days. His body hurt every night, but his soul started to shine. One evening, as he walked home, a group of young men passed him. One of them shouted, "Hey, boxer uncle, don't break your bones!" Rahim kept walking, but inside he smiled, because something was waking up again, something strong, something dangerous. The forgotten fighter was returning. The gym was full of life, noise, and energy. Young boxers jumped rope, punched heavy bags, and shouted during training. Music played loud, sweat dripped from strong bodies. Dreams were being built here, dreams of winning medals, becoming champions, being famous, and then there was Rahim Khan. He entered slowly, wearing old jogging trousers, a faded t-shirt, and carrying a small water bottle. His back was slightly bent, his steps careful. No one paid attention at first, but when he walked toward the punching bag, some boys stopped and stared. "Uncle is back," one of them said. Another laughed. "Maybe he thinks he's still young." A third boy, tall and muscular, named Shazaib, smirked. He was the current star of the gym, undefeated in local fights, proud and loud. He whispered loudly, "Maybe. Dadaji wants to join the national team." Laughter filled the gym. Rahim didn't respond. He simply put his bag on the bench, wrapped his hands, and walked to the farthest punching bag. He touched it gently, then punched, once, twice. Slow, soft, more. Laughter followed. The trainer, Asif, walked up with a towel around his neck. "Uncle, I already told you, this gym is not for entertainment. These boys are serious fighters." Rahim looked up, his voice calm but firm. "I am not here to entertain. I'm here to train." Asif shook his head and walked away, muttering, "What a waste of space." Only one person didn't laugh, Bilal, the gym cleaner. Bilal watched Rahim every day with silent respect. While others mocked him, Bilal saw something different, a quiet fire in his eyes. He remembered the videos, the strength, the speed, the roar of the crowds. That man was not just a boxer, he was a legend. After everyone left that evening, Bilal came to him. "Sir," he said, handing him a bottle of cold water, "your footwork is slow, but your stance is still strong." Rahim smiled. "The body forgets, but the soul remembers." From that day, Bilal stayed late every night. After finishing cleaning, he helped Rahim. He placed cones for footwork drills, held the pads, timed his punches, corrected his posture. Rahim started training like a soldier, slow at first, but steady. Every morning, he did 100 skips. Every afternoon, 3 rounds on the punching bag. Every evening, 50 push-ups and 3-kilometer walk. He didn't speak to the other boys. He didn't answer their jokes. He simply trained. But slowly, things began to change. One evening, while punching the bag, his glove made a loud thump sound. Shazaib turned and looked. Stronger than before," he said with a grin. "Not bad for an old man." Rahim didn't reply. Next day, Rahim tried shadow boxing. His movements were smoother, his eyes focused. Some boys stopped laughing. One whispered, "Uncle is improving." Still, others mocked louder. "Let him try. He'll break his back soon." Then came the day of the sparring matches, practice fights between gym members. It was a weekly tradition. Boys fought in front of each other to test their skills. Rahim stood near the corner, watching. Suddenly, Shazaib pointed toward him. "Why not let the old lion try?" he shouted. Everyone looked. Asif laughed. No, he's not ready. He can get hurt." But Rahim stepped forward. "Let me try." There was silence. Asif raised his eyebrows. "You sure?" Rahim nodded. Asif sighed. "Okay, but only 1 round. No serious hits." Shazaib laughed. "Don't worry. I'll go easy on Dadaji." The ring was set. The boys gathered around, phones ready, some recording videos to post online later. Rahim wore his gloves. His body looked tired, but his eyes, sharp like a hawk. The bell rang. Shazaib bounced around, confident, throwing light jabs. Rahim moved slowly, blocking, watching. Then, out of nowhere, Rahim ducked, turned, and landed a clean body shot. Thump. The sound echoed. Shazaib stumbled back, surprised. The crowd gasped. Shazaib's smile disappeared. He moved forward again, faster this time. He threw 3 punches. Rahim blocked 2. The third hit his shoulder. He didn't flinch. Then he moved sideways and jabbed twice, sharp and clean. The round ended. Everyone was silent. Shazaib removed his gloves, pretending to laugh. "Not bad, uncle." But inside, he was shaken. Asif looked at Rahim, confused. He had seen something powerful. Bilal clapped from the side quietly. Rahim walked out of the ring without a word. That night he didn't sleep. He sat on his bed holding his gloves. For the first time in years, he felt alive. Not because he hurt Shazaib, but because he was back. After the sparring round, the gym atmosphere changed. No one laughed loudly anymore when Rahim Khan entered. Some still whispered, some still doubted, but many now watched in silence. His punches had power. His movement had purpose. There was something about him, something heavy, something deep. What they didn't know was the pain behind that power. Late one night, Rahim sat alone in his small room. A single dim bulb hung from the ceiling. He held an old photograph in his hands. It was torn at the edges, yellow from time. In the photo, he stood proudly in the center, gloves on, arms raised. Beside him was a beautiful woman with kind eyes, his wife, and between them, a little girl with a bright smile, his daughter, Aisha. He touched the photo gently, as if trying to feel them. He closed his eyes. The memories returned like waves. 25. Years ago, Rahim Khan was at the top. The entire country knew his name. His fights were shown on TV. People cheered him in the streets. Kids copied his punches in schools. He had won every major title in Pakistan. He was the pride of the nation. But success never came easy. He was born in a poor family. His father was a bus driver. His mother cleaned houses. As a boy, Rahim used to sell eggs on the street. He got into boxing by accident, after a street fight where he knocked out a bully with one punch. A local coach saw him and said, "You don't belong on the streets. You belong in the ring." Rahim trained hard, day and night. No money, no equipment, just hunger in his belly and fire in his heart. And slowly, he rose, fight after fight, win after win. Then he met Sana, the love of his life. She was a school teacher, gentle and wise. She gave him balance. She gave him peace. They married young and had one daughter, Aisha. She was the light of his eyes. After every match, he would lift her on his shoulders and shout, "This win is for you." But life is not always kind. Just 1 week before the biggest match of his career, the national final, Sana fell seriously ill. Doctors said it was late-stage cancer. Rahim was shocked. He couldn't think, couldn't sleep. He wanted to cancel the match, to stay by her side. But Sana held his hand and said, "No, Rahim, this is your dream. Go fight. I'll be waiting when you return." With tears in his eyes and pain in his chest, he stepped into the ring. His mind was with her. His hands were heavy, his focus lost. He lost the match, not because he was weak, but because his heart wasn't there. When he reached the hospital that night, it was too late. Sana was gone. He didn't cry in front of anyone, but something inside him broke that day. He never entered a ring again, never wore gloves again. He gave up everything. Even his daughter Aisha saw him slowly fade away, like a shadow of the man he once was. Years passed. Aisha grew up, got a scholarship abroad, and begged him to come with her. But Rahim refused. He said, "This is my home. I'll be fine." But he wasn't fine. Every morning he woke up and looked at Sana's picture. Every night he talked to her photo as if she could hear him. The world moved on. New boxers took his place. His name disappeared from headlines. Trainers forgot him. Even his trophies gathered dust in an old wooden box, but his soul still burned. That's why, when he walked past the gym that day and heard the sound of gloves hitting bags, he stopped. That sound had once been his life. That sound had once been his heartbeat. He knew it was time. Not to win medals, not to prove anything to anyone, but to feel alive once again, to honor the woman who believed in him, to make his daughter proud, to show the world that age may slow the body, but it cannot kill the warrior inside. Back in the present, Rahim opened a drawer and took out a folded paper. It was a letter from Aisha. It read, "Dear Abu, I know you're lonely. I know you're hurting. But I also know you're stronger than you think. You were once a champion. You can still be. Not on TV, not in the newspapers, but in life. I love you. Never give up." A tear rolled down his cheek. He wiped it quickly. Then stood up, walked to the mirror, raised his fists, and whispered to himself, "The fight isn't over." The gym was quiet that morning. The usual noise, ropes whipping, gloves punching, boys shouting, was missing. Something had changed. Rahim Khan had become a mystery. Some boys respected him now. Others still whispered behind his back. But no one laughed like before. They had seen him move. They had felt his presence. His punches were no longer slow. His footwork was sharper. His body still old, but his spirit young. Shahzaib, the arrogant young champion of the gym, didn't like it. He watched Rahim every day. At first he found it funny, an old man trying to box. But now, it was different. Rahim was getting attention. Even the trainer, Asif, had started watching him more carefully. One afternoon after training, Shahzaib threw his gloves on the floor and said loudly, "Everyone's talking about this old man like he's a hero. Why? Because he hit a few bags and sparred once?" Rahim was nearby, drinking water. He didn't say anything. Shahzaib stepped closer. "If you think you're still a fighter, uncle, then fight me, in front of everyone." The gym fell silent. Even Asif looked up, surprised. Rahim looked into Shahzaib's eyes, calm, cold. "I don't fight for fun," he said. Shahzaib laughed. "Fun? You think I'm joking?" "No, uncle. Let's see if the legend still has it." The boys circled around. Some took out their phones. They smelled drama. Asif walked in between them. "Enough! This gym is not for street challenges." But Shahzaib was already fired up. "Coach, let us fight. Just once. He wants respect. Let him earn it." Asif turned to Rahim. "It's your call." Rahim took a deep breath. "I'll fight," he said softly. "But not today." Shahzaib raised an eyebrow. "Scared?" "No," Rahim said. "I need 1 week. 1 week to prepare." A small smile formed on Asif's face. He was starting to feel something he hadn't felt in years. Excitement. He nodded. 1 week, next Friday, after training, a full 3-round match. No headgear, just gloves and heart. Word spread fast. The old man was fighting the gym's champion. By evening, the entire neighborhood knew. Some laughed. "Rahim Khan? Isn't he too old to even walk straight?" Others said, "Have you seen his eyes lately? He's not done yet." Bilal, the young janitor who helped Rahim train, was worried. He pulled Rahim aside. "Sir, you really want to fight him? He's young, fast, strong." Rahim smiled. "So was I. Once. but you could get hurt. Rahim placed a hand on Bilal's shoulder. I'm already hurt, Beta, but I need this. Not to win, to remember who I am. From that night, Rahim changed. He trained harder than ever. No breaks, no rest, push-ups, footwork, shadow boxing, speed drills, reflex training. Bilal did everything he could, timing him, counting reps, even feeding him protein soup made at home. Asif, watching from a distance, couldn't believe his eyes. The old man was not just training, he was transforming. 3. Days before the match, Asif approached Rahim during his water break. You really think you can beat Shazaib? He asked. Rahim looked at him. I don't need to beat him. I just need to stand in front of him and not fall. Asif nodded slowly. You've already done more than anyone expected. The night before the fight, Rahim cleaned his old gloves. The leather was cracked, but they still smelled like battle. He placed them on the table and sat quietly, staring at them. He thought of Sana, her soft voice, her last smile. He thought of Aisha, her words, her belief in him. And he whispered to the empty room, tomorrow I fight, for both of you. The day of the fight, the gym was packed. Boys, trainers, locals, even people who hadn't come to the gym in months, all stood shoulder to shoulder. Phones were ready, cameras were rolling. In one corner, Shazaib bounced in place, muscles shining, full of confidence. In the other, Rahim sat still, eyes closed, breathing deeply. Bilal wrapped his hands, carefully and tightly. You ready, sir? Rahim opened his eyes. Calm, steady, born ready, Asif stood in the center. This is a respectful fight. 3 rounds, no knockouts unless necessary. Touch gloves. Shazaib smirked and tapped Rahim's gloves. Don't break, old man. Rahim said nothing. The bell rang. Round 1 began. Shazaib moved fast, light on his feet, hands up, throwing jabs. Rahim stayed back, guarding. First punch landed. On Rahim's shoulder, second punch, blocked, third, missed. Then Rahim countered. A body shot, thump. It was loud. It was clean. The crowd gasped. Shazaib looked surprised. He moved faster now, trying to dominate. A few punches connected. Rahim stumbled once, but stayed on his feet. The bell rang. Round 1 ended. No one laughed now. People looked at each other, whispering, Did you see that shot? In his corner, Rahim sat down, breathing heavily. Bilal gave him water. Sir, you're doing amazing. Keep moving. He's under pressure. Rahim nodded. He wasn't tired. He was alive. The bell rang again. Round 2 began. The crowd was louder now. No more jokes, no more laughter. Everyone was standing, eyes fixed on the ring. Some were recording, some just watching in shock. No one believed that Rahim Khan, the old forgotten boxer, had just survived a full round with the gym's champion. Shazaib's face had changed. The usual grin was gone. His jaw was tight. His ego had been scratched. He wasn't fighting an old man anymore. He was fighting a real boxer. He came in hard this time. Quick jabs, fast footwork. A sharp hook. Rahim blocked, dodged, but the last hook landed on his ribs. Thwack! He took a step back. The crowd gasped. Shazaib pressed forward, trying to finish it. He threw a left, missed. A right, blocked. Another left, connected. Rahim stumbled slightly. His gloves dropped a little. Bilal shouted from the side, Guard up, sir! Guard up! But Rahim wasn't scared. He had taken harder hits before. In life, in the ring, in the heart. He looked up. And then he smiled. That smile, calm, fearless, shook Shazaib for a moment. Rahim moved, his feet slow but smooth. He sidestepped, ducked under Shazaib's punch, and countered with a jab to the stomach. Then another to the side. Then, with perfect timing, a short right hook, clean on the jaw, thump. Shazaib's head turned slightly. His body froze for a second. The crowd exploded. "What a shot!" someone shouted. "Dada Jane and Mardaya!" another voice yelled. Shazai backed off, surprised. He had never been hit like that. Not by a kid, and certainly not by a 62-year-old man. Asif, the trainer, leaned forward, his eyes wide. "This is not just luck," he whispered. Rahim didn't chase Shazaib. He stood in the center, gloves up, breathing deeply. He wasn't trying to look strong. He was strong. Every breath reminded him of his training. Every punch reminded him of his past. Every second reminded him why he was here. He was not fighting to win. He was fighting to remember who he was. Shazaib came again, angrier this time. But anger made him wild. His punches were fast, but not smart. He was losing control. Rahim remained calm. He blocked and moved, picked his moments. He didn't waste energy. Boom! A straight jab. Thump! A left to the ribs. Shazai began to breathe heavily. Sweat poured from his forehead. Then, the bell rang. Again. Round 2 ended. Shazaib walked to his corner, frustrated, angry, tired. He slammed his gloves on the stool. "What is happening?" he asked. His friend said, "Bro, he's not a joke. He's something else." Across the ring, Rahim sat. Quietly, Bilal wiped his face and gave him water. "Sir, you're doing it," Bilal whispered. "You're winning." Rahim shook his head gently. "I'm not here to win," he said. "I'm here to show I never gave up." Bilal's eyes filled with tears. "You already have." The crowd was buzzing. Phones lit up. Even people outside the gym were hearing the noise. They peeked through windows and opened doors. Who was this old man? Why wasn't he falling? Why was he still standing after 6 brutal minutes? Because he had something Shazaib didn't. Purpose. Flashback. 10 years ago, Rahim sat alone in a hospital. Hallway. Aisha, just 15 years old, came and held his hand. "Abu," she said, "Ami is not in pain now. She's in peace." Rahim didn't answer. He just stared at the floor. Aisha continued, "But you are still here. I am still here. Please don't give up." Rahim looked at her. His daughter's eyes were full of strength. The same strength Sana once had. "You were a champion," she whispered. "You still are. Don't become a ghost." Back to the ring, Rahim opened his eyes. He looked across at Shazaib, then up at the ceiling, then down at his gloves. And then he stood up, slowly, but proudly. The final round was coming, and he was ready. The crowd started chanting his name. Rahim. Rahim! Rahim! Even Asif smiled and nodded. The trainer who once laughed at him now admired him. The final round was moments away. Rahim Khan stood up slowly from his stool. His legs were tired, his ribs hurt, and sweat dripped from every part of his body. But his back was straight, and his eyes were calm, like a man who had walked through fire and survived. Across the ring, Shazaib stood too, younger, stronger, faster. But now, unsure. He had never felt fear in the ring before. But today, he wasn't fighting just an old man. He was fighting a story, a life, a storm. The bell rang. Round 3 began. The crowd was on fire. Phones were raised. People leaned in. "Come. On, Rahim. Finish strong. Shazaib, don't let him win." Both fighters moved slowly at first, circling, reading each other. Then Shazaib rushed in, a quick jab, blocked, a right hook, dodged, a left to the ribs, landed. Rahim winced but didn't fall. Instead, he moved his feet. 1 step, 2 steps. Then suddenly, a sharp uppercut from Rahim, clean under Shazaib's chin. Boom! The sound was sharp. Shazaib staggered back. The crowd shouted Asif. The trainer stood up. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Rahim didn't chase. He waited. He knew boxing was not about wild punches. It was about patience and heart. Shazaib came again, this time slower. He was breathing heavily now. His arms felt heavy. He threw another punch, wide and wild. Rahim slipped under it, and then he remembered Sana, her smile, her voice, her last words. Fight, Rahim, for me. He remembered Aisha, her tears, her letter. You were a champion. You still are. And something deep inside him exploded, a strength not of muscles but of memory, not of youth but of love. He stepped in, one left jab, one right cross, a body shot, then a powerful straight punch to the center of Shazaib's chest. Thud! Shazaib! Gasped for air. He stumbled. He dropped to one knee. The crowd went silent. Time froze. Then they screamed. He's down! Shazaib's down! Dada J did it! The referee counted. 1, 2, 3. Shazaib looked up, dazed. He tried to get up. He did, just at the count of 8. He nodded, showing he could continue. But the fight had changed. Now it wasn't about technique. It was about heart. The final seconds ticked away. Both fighters exchanged. Blows, one after another. Rahim's body was shaking, but he didn't back down. Shazaib's punches were slow now, tired, heavy. Rahim dodged one last hook, then landed a final uppercut just as the bell rang. Ding, ding, ding! It was over. The gym exploded in cheers. Some cried, some clapped, some stood silently, unable to believe what they just saw. Rahim stepped back, breathing like a warrior, barely able to stand, but still standing. Shazaib leaned on the ropes, chest rising and falling, sweat dripping, face stunned. The referee raised both hands, unsure who had won. But in the hearts of the people watching, they already knew. Rahim Khan had come back, not just in the ring, but in life. Asif walked into the ring, slowly, walked up to Rahim and hugged him tightly. I was wrong about you, he said, voice trembling. You're not a retired boxer. You're a champion. Shazaib walked up too. He removed his gloves, held out his hand. Rahim looked at him, then shook it. Shazaib said, You taught me something today. Rahim nodded. Never judge by age. They both smiled. Later that evening, Rahim sat outside the gym with Bilal, drinking water, watching the sunset. People came to him one by one, to shake hands, to say thank you, to take photos. He had become a legend again. Bilal looked at him and said, Sir, you've inspired all of us. You didn't just fight, you changed hearts. Rahim smiled, tired but peaceful. I didn't come to win, he said. I came to remember. Bilal asked softly, And did you? Rahim looked at the gloves resting beside him. Yes, he whispered. I remembered who I am. The next morning, the gym door opened early. Rahim Khan stepped in quietly, just like before. But this time, it was different. There was no laughter, no mocking, only respect. Some boys paused their training to greet him with small nods. Others stepped, aside to give him space. Even Shazaib, now with a bandage above his eyebrow, smiled and said, Salam, Ustad. Rahim simply smiled back. He had not come to train. He walked over to the corner of the gym where his bag rested. Slowly, he unzipped it and took out his old gloves, worn, cracked, soaked with memories. He placed them gently on the bench. The trainer Asif walked over. You're not training today? He asked. Rahim shook his head. No, my fight is over. Asif looked confused. But you could train others. You've become a hero, sir. A symbol. Rahim turned to him, calm. A real fighter knows when it's time to walk away. Asif said nothing. He simply nodded, understanding the weight of those words. Later that day, Rahim sat on a park bench, watching children play. He thought about Sana. He thought about Aisha. He thought about the pain, the silence, the years that had passed, and how a single fight brought him back to life. Not just in the eyes of others, but in his own heart. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his daughter's letter again. The same words stood bold and clear. You were a champion. You still are. Never give up. He closed his eyes and whispered, I didn't, Betty. I didn't. The next evening, a video of the fight went viral online. The title read, 62-year-old boxer shocks everyone with knockdown punch. Millions watched. Comments flooded in. Age is just a number. This man's spirit is gold. I cried watching this. My father is 60, and I showed him this. He started walking again today. People across the country were inspired. News channels called him the Iron Legend. He refused interviews. He said, let the story speak. I don't need a microphone. But one call he waited for. And it came. Abu? His heart jumped. It was Aisha. I saw the video, she said, crying. You fought, and you won. Rahim smiled softly. I didn't win the match, Betty. I won myself. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I'm proud of me, too, he said. A few days later, a small ceremony was held in the gym. Not official, not fancy, just real. Real people, real hearts. They presented Rahim with a golden glove, not for his victory in the ring, but for his victory in life. He held it, raised it gently, and said just one line. Never laugh at someone's age. Because you don't know the fights they've already won. The room fell silent. Tears rolled. And the applause lasted longer than any boxing bell. Weeks later, Rahim now visited the gym every morning, not to fight, but to guide, to teach the young ones, to tell them not just how to punch, but why to punch, to tell them that strength means nothing without purpose, that glory fades, but honor stays. One day, a young boy who had never spoken to Rahim walked up to him. Sir, he said, my father left us. I'm angry all the time. That's why I fight. Rahim placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't need to fight your pain, he said. You need to turn your pain into power. The boy nodded. And so, the legend lived on, not just in stories, not just in videos, but in every punch, every breath, every young fighter Rahim guided. Back in his home, Rahim sat with a small frame in his hand. It was a photo of him and Sana, and below it, written in soft ink, he never gave up. He smiled, looked up at the ceiling, and whispered one last time, I kept my promise.